Greetings, Earthlings, and welcome to Cereal at Midnight. I'm Heath, and in this episode we are talking about the brand new restoration of Invaders from Mars. This is the original Cold War classic, 1953. It's just been given a, frankly, stunning restoration. And this new disc presentation, there's a Blu-ray, there's a 4K option from Ignite Films. So we're going to talk about this release, but we're also going to talk about the movie because it's a movie worth talking about. You know, my roots really bleed through in a lot of what I do. This is the kind of movie that I thought about when I named my channel Cereal at Midnight. This is the kind of movie we're eating cereal while we watch at midnight. This is a real classic of Cold War paranoia. This sort of bridges the gap between maybe War of the Worlds. Now I'm talking about it's 1953 for War of the Worlds as well. This is 53, War of the Worlds, same year. War of the Worlds is a much bigger movie with a much bigger budget. But this sort of bridges the gap between that, like They Are Coming, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers, because this is yet another film this is one of the earlier films to say, you can't trust your family. You can't trust your friends. You can't trust, your neighbor 2 doors down the street. What's great about Invaders from Mars is that it is so weird. It is such a strange, visually confusing almost, a disorienting movie. It's a nightmare. The movie it's a dream. It's a nightmare. It's what could happen. At the center of the story is a boy, and he has this experience where everything that he trusts and everything that he knows gets turned on its head, and he is alone, and everyone and everything is suspicious. And in some ways this reminds me of here's another 1953 movie, The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, which is it's a Ted Geisel, Dr. Seuss, it's a live action Dr. Seuss movie. He's heavily involved in the creation of the movie. And it's another thing where a child is in this nightmare world. And this is what's happening, right? This is the thing that the first generation of monster kids watch this and they are traumatized by this. Because of course, you can't watch this at 8 years old or 10 years old or however old you are. And it's saying, hey, question your parents. Hey, question your authority. Question the government. Question the military. You question everything. So, of course, this probably leads directly to the counterculture of the 1960s. It's fascinating, and it's very well done. This is directed... There's actually production designed and directed by William Cameron Menzies, who had worked on Gone with the Wind, and a lot of prestigious films. But what he brings here is this real sense of it's a set-bound movie in a lot of ways. It's very low budget. Less than $300,000 is the number that I keep seeing. Whereas The War of the Worlds was like a $2 million film. It's very set-bound, but it doesn't necessarily feel set-bound. So while there's a house, but that's a set. There's the yard, there's this dirt pit, this sand pit, that's a set. But it doesn't necessarily feel like a set, but what it does feel is a little bit claustrophobic. And then when we finally get inside this ship, the actual Martian invaders, it gets incredibly surreal. So it's a movie worth looking at for different aspects. You can look at it for the social commentary. You look at it for just great mid-century science fiction. And you can also look at it as a study in production design. There's a story that comes through in the special features here about how Menzies was storyboarding out. It's like early storyboards is what we're talking about, drawing little thumbnails of everything. And those disappeared. And he had to recreate the movie. He's making the movie, trying to remember how he had set everything up. It's wonderful. If this had arrived in 2022 when it was first released, this was released in the middle of December 2022. My copy just showed up. If this had arrived when it was first released, this would absolutely have been one of my favorite releases of 2022. It's remarkable. So it's loaded with special features. I'm going to hold this up and you can freeze frame this. I export my videos in 4K, so hopefully you can read everything that's there. But I want to go through some of this stuff with you. So it's a brand new 4K restoration of the film from the original camera negative and the master positives. There is a detailed 24-page booklet here that goes into how this movie was restored. It's written by Scott McQueen, who is the restoration supervisor here. He's got a high pedigree. He's worked on a lot of projects. A lot of you guys know him. This is a very detailed, talking about the sources, where the sources came from. They came from all over the world. None of the sources were complete, so it becomes taking what you can hear, and then it's really and truly remarkable. There is a restored on 4K original 1953 trailer and the new 2022 trailer. Interviews with Jimmy Hunt, the child actor extraordinaire Jimmy Hunt, William Cameron Menzies' biographer, James Curtis, recollections of Menzies' eldest granddaughter, Pamela Lawson. Featurette with acclaimed film director John Landis is here, talking about how much he loved this movie when he saw it on television when he was a kid. I always love when Landis pops. These first generation monster kids. Joe Dante is here. John Landis is here. Editor Mark Goldblatt, special visual effects artist and two-time Oscar winner Robert Skotak, who's the foremost expert on Invaders from Mars. He talks about the remake, the Tobe Hooper movie, his contributions to that. And the enthusiast and film preservationist Scott McQueen, who's at the center of this project. That's about 22 minutes, but there's about an hour of new on-camera features here, from the deleted scenes to the interviews. It's pretty astonishing. We have the John Sayles introduction to the movie from the TCM Fest 2022. So when they showed this at the Turner Classic Movies Festival 2022, there's the introduction to that is here presented in video. Before and after clip restoration, which is just shows you how far this thing came. And the restored segments in 2K of the alternate international version. Basically, when they export this for foreign audiences, for the European audience, they need 8 more minutes. They fire up the camera a year later, and they make they got eight minutes of new scenes. The kid looks different. The main, the star looks different. It's shot differently. It doesn't stylistically, it's not the same, and it's basically just people talking with no music, and it really just puts the brakes on the film. But they're here. And there's also an alternate ending for the European audience that was a lot more just like hard and, here's a real solid ending, because I don't want to spoil this movie if you've never seen it before. It's got a pretty interesting ending. So it has the alternate ending as well. So then there's a gallery, you guys, with the press book pages, behind the scenes photos from the restoration process, and then this 24 pages if you want to count the front and back covers. It is loaded, you guys. This is, if you love this movie, if you've never seen this movie, okay, I've got my Teenagers from Outer Space shirt on. If you love 50s mid-century science fiction, if you love This Island Earth, if you love War of the Worlds, if you love The Man from Planet X, if you love, these are the kinds of, I'm trying to think of all of these. There's a bunch of George Powell movies that fit into this category. If you love mid-century, Cold War, paranoia, The Iron Giant. Okay, so if you're new to this genre and you love The Iron Giant, this is the kind of movie that inspired The Iron Giant. This is the kind of movie that they are tipping their hat to. I love this stuff. This is the kind of thing that I was raised on. Now, I am obviously not a first-generation monster kid. I was not traumatized by this in 1955 or whenever this hit TV in different markets. But I grew up with that dial, pre-cable days, when you're just, whatever you could find on that TV dial could blow your mind. And this is the kind of thing that I absolutely love to celebrate, and it inspired the bands that I love. It inspired Rob Zombie, right? It inspired Man or Astro Man. This is the kind of thing that I absolutely adore. So it now has a definitive edition on home media. There's a Blu-ray. This is only 4K, right? There's no Blu-ray disc here. It's only 4K. And I will put links to where you can purchase this in the description of this video. I would like to know what you think about Invaders from Mars. These videos are always the start of a conversation that we can have together. Let's talk about it. Thanks so much. Thanks to Ignite Films for bringing this to reality. Thanks to Scott McQueen for his restoration efforts, and for everyone involved in this project. I'm so happy to see science fiction living on 70 years. This is the 70th anniversary of Invaders from Mars. We're talking about it after all these years, and it looks better. Probably it looks better than it did when it hit theaters on opening day. So I am so grateful. Let's talk about it. Thanks so much. Take care. Until next time, I will catch you later.